Shaq, well, he has a bold prediction about your Spurs and the OKC Thunder. Let's preview tonight's Spurs-Lakers game.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope you're having a great day. As always, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the best. Keep it up. Keep on making the Locked On Sports Podcast Network the number one in this nation. Subscribe, iTunes, Spotify, Kens 5 Plus app, YouTube. You know what to do. Go subscribe right now. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are on. There's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. So just go there, bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. What are we talking about today? Well, we're going to be looking at tonight's Lakers-Spurs game. But first off, we're going to be reacting to what Shaq recently said on ESPN's Inside the NBA. He made a very bold prediction when it comes to the Spurs and Thunder. Not only did he say that they will meet in the Western Conference Final, yeah, your young Spurs getting that far into the playoffs, but going as far as saying they'll beat them. Do we buy that? Do we sell that? Let's go and bring in our guest, everybody. He is back on Tuesday, Mr. Rudy Campos of Box Score Studio. Rudy, welcome back.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me back.
Not a problem, buddy. Oh, you're such a busy man. You're such a busy guy, dude.
Yeah, I'm busy and stuff, but it always seems to happen. You know, you got to call the best six men in the business whenever it bow out. So
there you
don't
go.
shake. Don't shake.
All right. Well, Rudy, we know you're again busy right now. Again, Rudy's joining us via audio today, so let's dive into it. So, in case y'all missed it, after the recent Spurs game over Dallas in San Antonio, where Spurs just trounced the Mavericks. Obviously the crew over at ESPN's Inside the NBA, they were talking about the game of the Spurs are looking good. And when Shaq all of a sudden just says, "Hey, Ernie," I can't do a Shaq impression. Take out your notepad. I got something for you to write down. So Ernie takes it out. I just goes, "What's up?" The Spurs will meet the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. Also beat them. Rudy, that's a bold take. Yes, we know the Spurs won the regular season series versus the Thunder, but that's a very bold take considering they are the defending NBA champs. Rudy, do you buy that or do you sell that?
A month ago, Jeff, I probably would have sold that. I'm me, I'm 10-1 not to believe, too much into the hype and see what's going on with the Spurs team in itself. But the one thing that Shaq is seeing that a lot of us are seeing is that San Antonio is able to match up with OKC. And that's something that a few months ago that you and I talked about on Locked On when they were playing the Oklahoma City, how they were one of the teams out there that can match up with OKC, both physically and also player for player. They've got a lot of guys that can match up with OKC. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of the guys in the NBA, a lot of the media people as well, are able to see what Shaq is seeing. The Spurs are going to be a tough out in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. We've seen injuries to SGA. We've seen injuries to Nikola Jokic, big names in there. So those injuries could come back and bite some of these teams in the butt, and that could be beneficial for the Spurs. But with him saying that, I will tell you this. As the season has gone by, as we've seen the Spurs develop into probably a better team than all of us expected this season, I'm willing to buy that at a probably a 75 to 80%, mark right there. I would say it's fairly true to what Shaq is saying.
Yeah, we'll talk about why he's wrong in a bit, but just initial thoughts. I would buy that. I really do. I think the Spurs team is constructed just well enough to give the Thunder fits, whether it's in their gym, home court advantage for the Thunder, or the Spurs in their gym. This team has proven when healthy, when they're all full strength, even when the Thunder are near full strength, the Spurs can match them pound for pound. You want to play fast? Spurs, you got that guy on their screen, the new Western Conference Player of the Week, Stephon Castle. Oh, you want to go a little deeper? Okay, not a problem. How about this guy, Victor Wembanyama, to cancel out your Chet Holmgren? And also, statistically, he gets the better of Chet as well. The list goes on and on and on. And you look at the Spurs when it comes to facing the Thunder this season, it seems to me in all their wins, they just flex their depth. Like they might be. Everybody says, Rudy, that the Thunder are one of the deepest teams, but do you think the Spurs are deeper than OKC?
I would have said yes. And the only reason why I'm saying maybe they're about equal, they did end up getting Jared McKing at the trade deadline, which is a huge, huge addition to OKC. But when it comes to depth for rosters, they're hand in hand, man. I mean, I think the Spurs, if you look at it, when I say they're probably a little bit better on the depth chart, I think what it is that they've got, a good mix of young talent. They got a good mix of veteran leadership. Same thing with Oklahoma, with Caruso in there as well, now with Jared McCain. But what I feel like the depth is going to make a difference is on the physicality side. I look at the Spurs are able to play more physical, and we've seen that against Oklahoma City. Now, for granted, teams like the Knicks and others as well have had the Spurs number because they play just as physical.
Right.
So, but if we're comparing OKC to the San Antonio Spurs, I think the Spurs' depth is a little bit better than OKC, not by much. I'm not gonna say it's leaps and bounds. It's not by much, but I think the Spurs add a little bit more than what OKC does. And the biggest factor, keep this in mind, OKC starts Chet and Hartenstein at the same time. Yeah. To me, that hurts OKC's depth more than anything, as the Spurs really just traditionally start Wembanyama, and they're able to clamp down on both Hartenstein and Chet at the same time.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being an adjustment if the Spurs and Thunder meet in the postseason. I can see the OKC head coach say, you know what, we're not going to go that route because it's proven to be a detriment to the Thunder. But you look at the Thunder, they are the defending champs. Let's give them their due. They are. Excuse me. But you also got to factor this too. As of right now, SGA is kind of, he's out for a while, dealing with an abdominal strain. The Thunder look vulnerable. They look vulnerable. And I look at the Spurs. The Spurs look like they could even live life without Wemby. I hope he does not get hurt in the postseason run at all. I'm not saying that. But if that happens, what we're seeing right now in the regular season, the Spurs have proven they can win without Wemby. The Thunder, I'm not too sure. Is it really all SGA or nothing for the Thunder?
You're looking at the team, the way that they're performing. Yeah. I mean, they're without SGA, obviously the MVP of the league, and it shows in their offense. It shows that they do have a lot of times difficult scoring. So the reason for them adding Jared McCain at the trade deadline was for that reason, because he's going to have to step in for SGA. But he's not SGA. You're not going to get the 30, 40-point nights from him consistently. So it does affect OKC. And, I think the Spurs can survive without Wemby. Not saying for an entire season, but they can survive Wemby without certain times of the season. But, ultimately, it's going to be bad for OKC. The longer SGA sits out, I'm not saying they're going to go on a terrible run, but it's going to be a bit of a struggle for them. And it kind of plays a little bit into where what Shaq said about, the Spurs beating the Thunder, because I think there is a key point to that. And I don't know if he made clear of it when he was making that prediction.
What is the key point?
So this is where I see it. Now, I fully see where Shaq's going. Like I said, I buy it at 75 to 80%. I buy it at a higher rate if this key point happens, and that if the Spurs are able to catch Oklahoma City for that number 1 seed in the Western Conference Final. I feel that if the Spurs can get to number 1 and the Western Conference goes through San Antonio, that makes it just that more difficult. I have more faith in them being a number 1 seed against OKC, having home court advantage in San Antonio, rather than what we've seen in past Spurs years where they've gone to Oklahoma City, and it's a very difficult place to play and a very difficult place to win, especially in the playoffs. Not just regular season, playoffs are a whole different animal. So I think if Shaq is looking at the bigger picture, he may not have said it. I don't know if he's considering it. But I think if the Spurs have the number 1 seed and they're able to catch Oklahoma now that SGA is out, I think that makes a massive difference, and it probably would be a lot more likelier to happen for Shaq's scenario.
Yeah, and I look at the Spurs, Thunder, at least in the regular season, we have a good sample size. That's 5 games. And maybe throw away that 5th game, because was anybody playing for the Thunder? Seriously. I mean, excuse me, nobody was playing for the Thunder that game. But in the 3 wins, the Spurs beat the Thunder, and a couple of those games, it was convincing. So the Thunder definitely should have a little bit of a worry when it comes to facing the Spurs. But here's where, if we're going to play devil's advocate for a little bit, let's talk about like not buying Shaq's prediction that the Spurs would not only meet the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, but beat them. Finding a doctor you actually like and feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network nearby and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens to you, makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly. That kind of doctor exists, and finding them is easy on ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments in more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering 200 specialties from primary care to dentistry to dermatology and eye care. Look, you'll definitely love it. You're going to find those doctors right away, get those appointments. You're going to have everything just working for you. No problems. So easy to use. ZocDoc makes the process simple. Search by specialty or symptoms. They actually build a care team that works for you. You can see real-time availability, book instantly, no phone calls, no waiting on hold. You can also read verified patient reviews so you feel confident choosing a doctor you actually like. And whether you want to go in person or do a video visit, ZocDoc makes it easier either way. Stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. Let's talk about Wayfair. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's the one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one spot. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work-from-home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what you're looking for your style and budget. You can pick up new bedding, accent pillows from Wayfair, completely change how your bedroom feels, cleaner, calmer, more put together. Shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, everything arrives exactly as expected, and you're just going to love how you're going to find the pieces that match your style without spending a fortune. Get organized, refresh, and you're back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And here's the first one: is they got to get through the playoffs. If they're gonna finish 1 and 2, the only way they're gonna meet each other is in the finals, obviously. But that means the Spurs will either have to go through a Denver, a Phoenix, a Minnesota, depending on how they fall in the field. That could pose a problem. Phoenix has shown that they can beat the Spurs. Minnesota has shown they can beat the Spurs. We haven't really played Spurs haven't really played Denver that much, but that could be a big stumbling block. Sure, you can beat the Thunder Spurs, but what about those teams along the way? Does that concern you, Rudy?
Absolutely. The West is nothing to ever overlook. And the teams that you mentioned, I mean, those teams are going to give any team, whether it be San Antonio or Oklahoma City, they're going to give them fits left and right. I mean, Jamal Murray's playing at an unconscious rate right now for Denver. Not to mention that Nikola Jokic coming back from injury is still, putting up triple doubles. So, I mean, Denver's going to be a tough out regardless. And of course, Minnesota, we've seen how hot they can get, especially around playoff time, making back-to-back Western Conference Finals the past couple of years. So they can get pretty hot. And that's the thing is that that's the point that I know you're making and I wanted to make too. It comes about this will be the first year the Spurs are in the playoffs. We have no idea how they're going to perform in the playoffs. Now, they may have smooth sailing. They may go 4-0, 4-1 in that first round against whoever. But once you get into that second round of the playoffs, it gets a lot tougher because a lot of these better teams are there. They are playoff tested, battle tested. Spurs haven't been there yet. So that's where it gets really tricky. And you're right. I mean, these other teams in the Western Conference, man, it's a tough bout no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, exactly. And the same goes for Oklahoma City. They're going to have to draw one of those teams as well. So who knows if they'll even meet in the finals? wouldn't be surprised if a Denver and OKC meet up along the way and, Denver advances. And nobody should be surprised. Same thing for the Spurs. Nobody should be surprised if Phoenix meets them in a playoff series and the worst happens for the Spurs. But nevertheless, that's where you would sell it. Another reason why you would probably sell Shaq's bold statement is Spurs have not been there. The young core has not been there. Steph Castle, Vassell, Keldon, Wemby, obviously Harper, not even Mitch Johnson has been into the postseason. That is a huge detriment. I think that playoff experience is huge. Look at what Chris Paul said in one of his final games in San Antonio. He told Steph Castle to go in and check out an NBA playoff game just to realize how it's a different beast. How much of that inexperience could bite the Spurs ultimately?
And, I've always said that the inexperience is what's going to kill some teams, especially come playoff time. But I never push back on you, Jeff. And I'm always the bad guy. I might have to make you the bad guy on Locked On.
All right, go for it.
Here. But what I'm going to say is this. With Mitch Johnson not being there, with the young team not being there, only having a few guys that have ever had playoff experience, I think it's actually kind of a blessing because other teams won't know exactly what to get from a playoff position of Spurs. Let's say this is my argument for the defense side over here. We're talking lawyer terms here. Is we've already gone into the season with people expecting the Spurs to be minimum or maybe even maximum a play-in team or a bottom-tier playoff team. Nobody expected San Antonio.
Right.
Even across the league, if you were to poll everybody, no one expected the Spurs to be the second-best team in the West or have this kind of record right now. They've already been shocked. Getting the same type of team into the playoffs, no one knows what to expect from a playoff Spurs team. And that's where I think it kind of smokescreens everything. So to say the inexperienced part, I'm 100% on board with that. But I think we kind of use that inexperience, button a little too much this season, and they're kind of proving everybody wrong. So you're a professional for a reason. You're in the NBA for a reason. You're always made for these big moments. It seems like when the big moments are there, this young team tends to rise to those big occasions and comes through every single time.
Yeah. Even the guy saying you're screwing now, Dylan Harper, he's proven this season that he can step up in big regular season games, as we've seen, even been clutch for them as well. We shall see. But it's going to be really interesting to see if that prediction that Shaq made comes true. What worries me, though, is not necessarily these two teams meeting. If the Spurs and Thunder meet in the Western Conference Finals, I will be very confident about the Spurs' chances to advance to the NBA Finals. But what worries me is the path. The path to that meetup worries me. Because if they draw Denver, that scares me more than facing OKC. What about you?
Well, yeah, I people remember I had Denver as my NBA champion before the season even started. I mean, Denver made so many great off-season moves that they were able to solidify a deep roster. And now they've got that injury bug with Jokic, Gordon, a lot of these guys dealing with injuries. So that, Denver's that one team that scares me. If they're healthy, they could be a really tough out. But what I mentioned, the biggest thing that concerns me, Jeff, is not so much the inexperience. The one word that kills me every single time, especially when you see a good Spurs team going into the playoffs, is injury. They've got to stay away from that injury bug, man.
Yeah.
We can't get into March and April and hear De'Aaron Fox is out for the year. Victor's out for the year. We can't hear anything like that. They got to stay healthy. If not, then yes, it's going to be a very difficult task for them to make it out of the Western Conference.
Yeah, that goes for all NBA teams that are at least playoff bound right now. Denver's dealing with it. SGA and the Thunder are dealing with it right now. That is a huge issue. And we didn't even talk about Houston. Houston could be an issue too. But obviously, the playoffs are still months away, but technically we're already halfway done with more than half of done with the season. So you blink and guess what? It'll be playoff positioning time. I mean, that quick. So it's not too premature to talk about this at all. Again, obviously there's still a lot of games to be played. Knock on wood, Spurs don't have any injury. Knock on wood for the good that they have continue their winning streak they're on right now and whatnot. Hey, speaking of games, well, before we get into the Lakers game, just real quick, everybody, if y'all have any comments regarding what Shaq had to say regarding your Spurs and the Thunder, let us know on X at Box Score Studio, at Jeff G Spurs Zone. We'd love to hear what you think about Shaq's bold prediction. You buy it, you sell it. Would they even meet for even that to happen? Let us know what you think. Okay, now let's talk about the game tonight. Lakers Spurs, the start of the Rodeo Road Trip 2026. Two, I want to say big games, but you want to go into the break, if you're the Spurs, on a high note. And beating LA in their gym would help. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2, self-employed forms, so you can just get to work on those deductions. You can upload your documents, go about your day, get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver, gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time offer, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Do the Lakers worry you? Are the Lakers a team that you think could give the Spurs fits tonight?
Oh, man, I'm the guy that told everybody the Lakers would be a playing team this year. The Lakers don't worry me at all. I mean, okay, you have the supposedly greatest of all time in some people's eyes, LeBron James. You got one of the best players on the planet, Luka Doncic. I get the concern for people, but these guys do not scare me at all. If I'm a Spurs roster that's healthy right now, I'm joining. I'm taking care of business. I'm getting the first leg of this road trip done on the winning side. There's really, I mean, the way this is, I hate to be the guy to be like, oh, Rudy Jinx stuff, but I'm sorry. The way the Spurs lose this game is they just lose it on this. They just lose it themselves. They create too many turnovers. They're not knocking down shots. This should be a game where it should be a steady game. I fully expect them to win, but no, the Lakers do not scare me at all.
Well, the good news is that the Lakers, who will be coming off a back-to-back, they get the Thunder yesterday. So they'll be facing the Spurs tonight. So they probably had a tough out already. But again, ahead of tonight's game, Spurs-Lakers, and ahead of the Lakers game versus the Thunder, look at some of the numbers for the purple and gold here. And let me pull them up here. We got it right here. Offense could be a problem. They're definitely one of the better offensive rated teams in the league right now at 118.4, good for 7th in the NBA. This is where the Spurs can exploit them. They can't play a lick of defense, can they? At all. 22nd in defensive rating, a 117.8. They give up a lot of points. But you also look at other stuff. They hit their shot, true shooting percentage, second in the NBA at 61%. And right now, heading into their Thunder game, they're 32-19. You look at other stats for the Lakers that could give the Spurs problems. They're 9th in rebounding percentage, so they definitely crash the boards. So there's that. But they're bad on offensive rebound rating, at 20th at 24.7. So all in all, it should be a game the Spurs win. The only thing is that right now in their last 5 games, going into their game versus the Thunder, they're 4-1 in their last 5. So kind of got a little bit of an uptick going for them. Now on the Spurs side of things, as we mentioned, they're definitely starting their rodeo road trip tonight. You want to start off on a good note, and the Spurs are definitely doing that. Not only did they get the news that Steph Castle is a Western Conference Player of the Week winner, but they're second in the West right now, 36-16. They're on a winning streak right now. You look at some of their numbers in their last 5 games. They're also 4-1 in their last 5. But offensive rating has gotten better. You remember what happened after Christmas, how atrocious it was? It's now climbed to 13th. Not great, but it's sneaking up on the top 10, 118.8. But this is where their bread and butter is, Rudy. Defensive rating, 111.4, good for 7th in the NBA. And they actually improved their outside shot. They're not top 10 yet, but they're right there. They're 11th in true shooting at 59.7%. And as mentioned, a 5-1 record in their last 5. The Spurs have confidence. They're coming off of big wins versus Dallas. I think this is a Spurs game to win. You're right. I agree with you. If they lose because they either blow a lead, come out of the half, with no focus, no energy, what we've seen repeatedly this season, and they let the Lakers come back in. I think we did see one of the Lakers matchups this season where the Lakers did crawl back into the game. But anything else that's standing out for you, the Spurs heading into the game versus the LA tonight?
Not really. I mean, for me, it's just limit the Lakers' fast break opportunities. That's something that they like to do. They like to run, get the rebound, take off. Of course, with LeBron James, he likes to get up and down the court. If you can kind of keep them in a half-court game, that's where it gets really tough for Los Angeles. So limit the fast break opportunities for the Lakers, rebound the basketball, definitely crash the offensive boards, and the biggest thing is they just got to make sure that they're hitting their shots. If they go cold, it's going to be a extremely long night for the Spurs. But nonetheless, you're gonna expect Luka to get 30, 40 points. He's going to have his typical game. Should not bother the Spurs because you've got the likes of SGA and other guys that have scored that many points against you, and you've still been able to control the game. So not a big it up. The biggest thing is they just got to shoot, not at a high percentage. They just got to make sure they're knocking down shots and not going cold for too long. That's right. My biggest key.
All right, Spurs-Lakers tonight in LA, the start of the Rodeo Road Trip 2026. Yeah, they'll be away from San Antonio for a while as the annual rodeo, Stock Show Rodeo, comes to San Antonio. He is Mr. Rudy Campos of Box Score Studio. Tell us about Box Score.
Yeah, so Box Score, all you got to do is go to YouTube, search Box Score Studio TV, hit the subscribe button. Super Bowl just ended, so we're going to do a recap of it here pretty soon. Also, kind of go back in a little bit of the NBA vault here, talking a little bit of the NBA All-Star, stuff like that. MLB starting up, so look for some MLB talk as well. And before I do go, I will say I completely hate the Rodeo Road Trip because you have a perfectly unused Alamo Dome where you don't need to be taking 9 games on the road or whatever it is. So you should take advantage of that. NBA, you're bad for that. You're still bad for that.
Can you imagine that? A throwback week? Just call it throwback week.
Yeah,
every year.
I'm all for that.
How much they would sell out that dome?
I mean, you don't have to sell, 70, 80,000.
No. The configuration for basketball. Right.
Yeah, I mean, just go back to the glory days in the Alamo Dome, and just for a whole week or 2 weeks, you just added maybe 2 games, 3 games. So, I mean, it's not bad.
You remember when they had that anniversary game? I mean, it was jam-packed that night. I went. It was so loud that night. And that was against the Warriors, too. That's when the Spurs were, not winning games at all, and the Warriors just smashed them up. But even then, it was just pure excitement. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. They really should have reconsidered the Rodeo Road Trip. Fine, you want to get a bulk of some of your road games out of the way, go for it. But they don't have to be away this long. No. A couple of games at the Dome would be great. I mean, think about it. The tickets they would sell, the merch they would sell, downtown will be alive for like a week or so. Be awesome. Look at Rudy. They got to hire Rudy for their marketing department. That'd be a good idea.
I wish. I would definitely take that job ASAP.
He is Mr. Rudy Campos of Box Score Studio. Follow him on X at Box Score Studio. Rudy, thanks again for joining us here on Locked On Spurs. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. We'll be back tomorrow as the Spurs season continues and the Rodeo Road Trip still gets going. Hey, real quick, check out the NBA Everyday Club. So what is that? Basically, you get Locked On Spurs ad-free. You get access to a members-only Discord channel. So there you go. Go hang out with some of your Spurs fans there. You want to go sign up right now. LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayclub. Do that right now. And I said, we'll be back tomorrow. So for Mr. Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.